The road that is right in front of him is we are going to have to fight very hard and argue very intelligently to get him a reasonable sentence where he can get out in relatively short order. I think your assessment is very close to my assessment. And then he's out. So what does he do first? What he does first, and I think he does it for quite a while, is he is now present for his seven children. He has a beautiful mother who is getting older. And I think he's going to want to spend time with his mother and with his kids and get reacquainted with them on the outside. They've all stood by him, of course, and they visit him in jail on a regular basis. But he needs to get back to his life with them, his life with the other people who love him and miss him. And that is going to be the next chapter and maybe the next several chapters of his life. One thing that I think is true about my assessment of Sean Combs, I believe he's always going to do something special, something that other people haven't done. And while he did say to me, as I said, that he hopes one day um, his fortune would take him maybe back to Madison Square Garden, I think that is, if ever, years down the road. And that is not in his immediate conception. That is something, quite frankly, I hope for him. I hope he comes out and he does important things. He's working very hard in jail. I think he is spending a lot of time thinking about aspects of himself, maybe some of the aspects of himself that caused him to be there. I think he's someone who's very conscious of the fact that he has these, tremendous blessings in his life, but he also has imperfections, as we all do. And I think he's really spent a lot of time thinking about that. And the word that I used and been using, and I want to use it now, is redemption. And redemption is earned. Redemption is not given. And I think he has done the hard work to earn redemption in the eyes of people, both his fans and his detractors alike. I think that to be human, and I think to have humanist beliefs, is to believe in redemption, that someone can do something wrong and then they have to have some way of redeeming themselves. And I think it's a great gesture of character on the part of the person seeking redemption and also on the part of the people that were asking to redeem that person. And so he's not asking for something for nothing. He's putting the work in. And I believe this is a great redemption story, and that is my hope for him.
You said he's doing the hard work. So, you know, real facts here. He has anger issues and has also had substance abuse issues. Is he getting professional help for both of those right now, and has he been?
So the answer is yes. He has therapists that we have basically lined up for him from the outside. The MDC is very strong in certain areas. One of the areas it's not so strong in, it does not have meaningful programming. And so that is not really available to him on the inside, as though if he were at a traditional post-conviction facility, there'd be more programming for him. So we have put things together. He's working very hard in therapy. We know who his therapists are. We don't seek to break the privilege that they have, but I know that he's working hard on all these issues. As you might remember, we got him into a batterers program even before he was arrested on the federal case. And frankly, I wish he had done that 30 years ago. I mean, I was a DA in Manhattan. That's where I started my career. I was 25 years old, 1990, working in the Manhattan DA's office. And I would say of my 200 plus cases, 30 or so cases involved, for the most part, men charged with domestic violence. And we didn't warehouse those men. We put them in therapy. We made that a condition of their resolution of their case. We gave them anger management, and we allowed them to redeem themselves in the eyes of society and in the eyes of the people that they were in love with and were in love with them.
When it comes time for sentencing, would you argue to the judge that the best way to get real professional help is on the outside, not the inside, and therefore house arrest or just house confinement might be more appropriate than prison?
That is certainly an argument that I may make. I mean, I think I am certainly going to be asking the judge, as a condition of his supervised release, that he have appropriate counseling and therapy. I think he needs it. I think he thinks he needs it, and that's the important part. Whether what I think is really irrelevant. He believes that he needs this. He believes that this would make him a better person. And the one thing that he says more than anything else, and he said this consistently for the last 10 and a half months, is I am going to make the most of my time in jail. This happened for a reason. I have deficits. I've had them my entire adult life, and they came back, to bite me. But I'm not just going to suffer through this time or blame anyone else for this time. I'm going to take account of my own actions. I'm going to try to do better. I'm going to have the last chapters of my life be the best chapters of my life in all the ways that really matter. To be a loving person, to be as close as possible with my children, to really rely on my faith. And I think he's going to do all of those things.
So house confinement is something you would seek?
Possibly. I mean, I have to see how our sentencing memo comes together. We have a very busy August and early September lined up for us, putting together what I think will be a very, very important document in the form of this sentencing memorandum. And I haven't talked about this, publicly yet. So let me tell you what I see. This is going to be a very comprehensive document. It's like the biography of Sean Combs, and written in a way that is meant to really reach an audience for the most part of one, which is our judge. And our judge is a very fair man, a very smart man, a man who reads everything we give him closely in detail, has meaningful questions, and we have to write an outstanding sentencing memo. I mean, one of the things I was conscious of as I was preparing my summation, I've said this a few times, but I want to say it to you, is I had put together an outline, and it wasn't right for the Sean Combs summation. It wasn't at that level. And I scrapped it all, and I wrote 3 pages of handwritten notes, and I gave my summation in front of the jury in real time, kind of in the moment, as a story that I was telling to the jury. And this sentencing memo has to be at the highest of levels. It has to tell his story accurately and beautifully and powerfully, and it will do all of those things. And that's really the way that we tell the judge who is Sean Combs. We're gonna have letters from other people who've known him through the years. We're gonna have, I'm sure that he's gonna want to make a statement to the judge, probably both in writing and in open court. And so this is really our occasion to show the judge, and maybe for the first time, the world, who he really is. Not necessarily the man, who we've seen on stage, not necessarily the man, who's putting on parties and the public face of Sean Combs. Who is he really? I mean, in his soul, who has he been his whole life? Who is the 12-year-old Sean Combs, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, all the way through his life, told from the people who knew him best. Because it's one thing for a lawyer to tell a story about someone. It's really something quite different to have letters from the people who've known him through the years. And I can tell you, we're collecting some just beautiful letters, from people in all different areas of his life. And I'm actually looking forward. I'm humbled and honored by the opportunity to tell this man's story. And I hope I do it the justice it deserves.
And finally, and I've wanted to talk to you about this for a long time. You and I had a talk early on in this case, and you took a lot of heat for something. And at the time, I didn't see your end game. I think I see it now. So I want to play the part of the interview that I'm talking about, give you my take on it now, and see if you agree. Here it is. How do you explain 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
I don't know where the number 1,000 came.
The U.S. attorney said it.
I can't imagine it's thousands. I mean, and I'm not really sure what the baby oil has to do with anything.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
I guess I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for. I mean, he has a big house. He buys in bulk. You know, I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. I mean, have you sat in a parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
Not 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
I don't think it was 1,000. I think it was. Let's just say it's a lot.
So you took a lot of heat for that. And I thought that that question was a tough one for you to answer. And I see it very differently now, because I saw what you did in your closing argument, where you mocked the fact that 70 Homeland Security officers were able to seize 1,000 bottles of baby oil and the streets were safer because of it. And you mocked it. And what I didn't realize then, and what I think a lot of people didn't think of then, is that this was a prelude for what you were arguing, which is you made light of it because that ultimately, in a weird way, it became a weapon for you to diminish the prosecution's case. Do I have that right?
You have it exactly right. And if you remember, toward the end of the trial, one of the outstanding Homeland Security agent did very, very important work. And I played that up in my cross-examination, that he did hundreds of search warrants in his life, and he was, going after terrorists. I think he was in the unit that dealt with like terrorism and things like that. And I asked him, how many times have you done a search and you recovered Astroglide and baby oil? And he said, one. I said, one in addition to this case? He says, no, this case. And, I wouldn't make light of hard drugs. I wouldn't make light of guns. I wouldn't make light of those kinds of things that are actually dangerous, because they're dangerous. But baby oil and Astroglide, I mean, one of the things I did in my summation, and this is, I think, what you're referring to, is early on in my summation, I sort of used it as a test balloon for the jury. And I said to the jury, they used all of this show of force, they used this military tactics, but it's all worth it because they got the Astroglide and the baby oil, and the jury laughed. And when the jury laughed, I said, I'm good. I know what I'm going to do from here. I'm going to use the tools in the storyteller's, arsenal, some of which is sarcasm, some of which is, they're different techniques, but the jury, I think, saw it that way. And that really was the point I was making. I mean, I was the chief of the violent crime unit in the District of New Jersey. I mean, I prosecuted mafia cases, MS-13 cases. I was on the 9/11 investigation. I've had big cases, and the Southern District has had big cases. And big cases, usually deal with dangerous things. And Astroglide and baby oil just isn't dangerous.
Well, it only took me 9 months to figure out what you were up to, but I certainly get it now.
I think you were the only person, or one of the only people I spoke to before the trial. And you said something, I think, on your show with Mark Garagos, that we stayed true. I stayed true to what I told you, 9 months before the trial, and that's because it was the truth. And there was only one truth. There was only one way through this, and that was to take it on head on, take on the domestic violence, own it, take it all on, and then pick a jury of New Yorkers who kind of know what's up, to show them what's bad, what's not bad, what's a crime, what's not a crime. And I think they really saw it our way.